Hi, my name is Dave. I'm your host. You're listening to the Last Podcast, where the first shall be last and the last shall be first. Is this your first time listening? Welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. I really appreciate you listening, and I hope you continue to find tips, ideas, and value from listening to this podcast. Today's episode is called 1% of Hope. As I look back at the major events in my life, one major event after another, I remember feeling so overwhelmed and shaken to my core like never before. It all started with the loss of my grandmother, who was more to me a mother since birth than my actual mother. My mother, who had to work to ensure that my sister and I was taken care of, so she hardly spent any time with us. We spent most of our time with our grandmother. To sum it all up, my grandmother was the one who showed me what unconditional love truly meant, along with my sister and my wife, who are no longer with me, hence the major events. I never knew how to handle death of a loved one, I tell you that right now, nor did I understand how to process loss. It wasn't until I was confronted with back-to-back losses of 7 family members, and I tell you right now, it was one of the most devastating things I ever had to deal with in the span of 3 years. I realized I had to face this head on, but here's the kicker. I still had not found a way to deal with my grief. I lost all the immediate family members that I grew up with in what seemed to be like a blink of an eye. I tried to suppress my feelings at first and slowly work through them slowly as possible. However, there was one problem with it. It was festering inside me all along. I want to really share with you something deeply ingrained in my heart, mind, and spirit. And it's a real short story, but it's a reason for this. In my teenage years, I grew up in the streets. And don't get me wrong, I had family that loved and adored me. However, I was unruly as they come, doing pretty much what I wanted to do. In some ways, I was also as selfish as they come. However, some would disagree with that assessment, but the truth is, why am I really telling you this? It's to prepare the canvas so I might paint a picture that allows you to see inside the reality I had to come to grips with from an immature standpoint of a man's life and belief. Wow, that last word, belief, is of deep importance to me because I was an atheist in my teens and in my 20s. I didn't believe in God, nor did I ever consider the vastness of this wonderful world we live in and my importance in it. If you were to fast forward my story, it wasn't until the death of my wife, the last person I grew up with, my wife for 26 years and a friend for 43, that my world was utterly shattered. Her passing wasn't just a loss, it was a violent tearing away of the final thread holding my life together. In that moment, the ground beneath me collapsed. I was left standing in ruins of everything I've ever known, every belief, every cherished habit, even my sense of self-worth. Grief carved out a hollow space in my chest, leaving me raw, exposed, and aching with loneliness so profound it felt like I was drowning. Oh, the devastation was total. My reality, once familiar, now felt foreign and uninhabitable. After my world was reduced to ruins, I found myself clinging to a single thread of hope, one fragile percent. That maybe somehow life could still hold something good. The other 99%, I felt utterly destroyed. My former life erased beyond recognition. I wandered through the aftermath, numb and hollow, barely able to summon the will to move forward or even live. Imagine with me for just a moment, just a moment. I know your time is important, but I want you to imagine that you're sitting in front of your computer or holding your cell phone and you're trying to do something on it, and it seems like the simplest commands to execute take an unimaginable time to go through. Your first instinct would probably be, maybe I have a virus. But after you run the scans to no avail, the virus comes up, or the scans for the virus comes up negative. You start to search for other answers, and then you look at your storage, and you pretty much see that it's 99% full. Common sense would be to delete what you don't want, transfer pictures and videos to an external source for safekeeping so that your computer or phone would operate efficiently, right? Okay, well, maybe that's not a great analogy, but I believe you would still get the point. And life is a little different than objects, wouldn't you agree? Contrast me with not being able to operate because I was 99% inefficient. I was not able to function at the level I once was before the loss of my family members. I was utterly lost and without purpose. Those hats that I once wore as a brother, son, nephew were ripped violently away from my identity. But there was that 1%. 1% in me was a glimmer of hope. A 1% chance that light that shone in my darkness. When you think and believe life is all over and there's nothing left to live for, you see the 1% of light. And that's when God shows himself through that 1% light of hope. When you have no strength to get up out of bed, no desire to do anything but replay the same movie over and over in your mind, the same movie of ruin. You think to yourself that you could have done something differently. Maybe I could have been more loving. Maybe if I would have just endured a little more. Maybe I could have been a little more understanding. Maybe I could have been there for them in a different way. That's when I heard the words, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Those words put me in a sort of a holding pattern. And you might be wondering to yourself, why? Well, rest wasn't a concept I understood any longer. I couldn't eat or sleep. The word rest for me was an open invitation. I had welcomed it with my 1%. The following words I remember hearing: "Take my yoke upon you. Learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Oh, did you hear that? Now, that invitation to rest and take upon a lighter burden than my own was so appealing. And it was more than you can imagine. But still, I had a choice, which to me was easy considering the state of mind I was in. Not having rest due to the trauma I had to endure was what my weary soul ached for. If you would like to hear the powerful poem that I created, the depths of how I felt through that poem, it's called One Dark Moment. I'll leave the link in the description in the show notes. Back to my story. As I was slowly being restored through hope, through Christ, and my belief that I was worthy, I realized something profound had to change. And I want to digress for a moment, because when I said my belief that I was worthy, I had to work on that, because I didn't believe that I was worthy. I didn't believe I should live any longer when all the good people in my life was taken. I didn't believe that I was worthy, so I had to work on that. And for anybody who's listening right now who are feeling unworthy, you gotta work on that. Believe me, you are worthy. Back to my story. I realized something profound. To anyone walking through that valley of grief or drowning in pain, so deep it feels like it's unending, hold on to even the smallest flicker of 1% of hope. That 1% of light can be enough to guide you out of your darkness. Trust that God sees you, that He hears you, and that He is able, and that He desires to restore you. Not because you've earned it, but because you are worthy of His love, forgiveness, and you are worthy of redemption. The journey begins with you believing that He can and will do it for you. You are not forgotten, no matter how shattered your dreams seem, how shattered you are, or you feel you are beyond healing. No one is beyond healing. So if today you can only find that 1%, that one glimmer of hope, let that be enough. Lean into that and let God meet you right there, right where you are, and trust that with Him, even the most broken story can be restored. You are loved more than you know. Your pain is seen, and there is a way through. For you, you have to want to go through, which is hard, especially with the pain. But I've been there. I know. I've been restored. Through my journey of redemption and restoration, I discovered a deeper purpose, helping people who are feeling the way I did, helping people who feel lost, emotionally drained, and overwhelmed, reclaim direction in their lives. That path led me to become a master transformation coach. I help individuals who feel like their life has lost its flame. People stuck with outdated patterns, repeating cycles, and carrying stories that no longer fit who they're becoming. Together, I work with you. We can rewrite the internal narrative, restore clarity, and realign life with purpose so you can refocus and move forward with intention. And if you're ready, if you're really ready and you're tired of being tired, you're tired of going through what you're going through, are you ready to stop living on repeat? I'll have a link inside the show notes where you can book a discovery call with me. It doesn't cost you a dime to do this. So you can start to rewrite your own story with clarity, with purpose, and real momentum. My name is Dave. You're listening to The Last Podcast. Hey, I wish and I pray that God restores your life and that He blesses you and your family beyond measure. Thank you for listening. You're listening to The Last Podcast. And if you want to write, hey, you can reach out to me at thelastpodcast443@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me at davidburton443@gmail.com. Hey, listen, I answer to all my emails personally. I thank you so much. Have a blessed day. So long.